Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make chocolate cream cookies. This is a sandwich cookie, which means we're going to take 2 chocolate cookies that have this really nice buttery crisp texture, kind of like chocolate wafer cookies. And we're going to sandwich them together with a delicious cream filling. So we're going to start by making the cookie batter. This batter is a little different. It's almost like a brownie batter. So in a heat-proof bowl, place 1 cup, that's about 225 grams of butter, and I like to use unsalted, and just cut it into small chunks. And then along with 1 cup, that's 240 milliliters of semi-sweet chocolate chips, or you could just use 6 ounces, which is 170 grams of your favorite semi-sweet chocolate, and just cut it into chunks. And then we're just going to plate this over a saucepan of simmering water and just melt the 2 together until smooth. So everything's melted, so just remove from heat. And I'm just going to let that cool until it's like lukewarm. And so next, in a separate bowl, I have 1 1/4 cups, which is 195 grams of white all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, I'm going to add 3/4 cup, 70 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. And I'm going to sift that over the top because my cocoa powder has a lot of lumps. Now, I like to use Dutch processed here. But you could use, if you can't find Dutch process, which some people can't, just use regular unsweetened, that'll be fine. So just keep in mind, like with all chocolate cookies or cakes, the type of chocolate, like if you use a Dutch process or a regular unsweetened, and even the brand will affect the flavor of your cookies, as is when the type of chocolate chips we use. That will affect the flavor of our cookies. And to that, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like to use a kosher salt. And I'm just going to whisk that all together. As you can see, we're using 2 types of chocolate here, which is going to give us a really deep chocolate flavor. And because we melted the butter, that's what helps give these cookies a really nice crisp texture. Okay, so now to our melted chocolate mixture, I'm going to, let's put that there, I'm going to whisk in 3/4 cup, which is 150 grams of granulated white sugar. And just whisk that in. The chocolate mixture is a little warm. It kind of melts the sugar. And then to that, I'm going to add 1 large egg. And make sure you keep whisking as you're adding that. And along with 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And try to use the pure because that has better flavor than the imitation ones. Okay, that's simple enough. And then we're just going to add the dry ingredients to the wet. And then I'm just going to use a rubber spatula. You could use a wooden spoon. And I'm just going to stir this. Now we want to keep stirring this until we get like a really soft dough. Kind of like putty. Whoop. Do it gently so you don't spray it like I did around. And then, as you can see, it's coming together, but keep stirring. We want it to like clear the sides of the bowl. As you can see, this is still not quite there. Our arm gets a little bit of a workout. Like I said, you could use a wooden spoon for this, or your hands. See how it's starting to come together? It's kind of a really cool dough. Very different from most cookies. But you'll love them once we bake them off. Very addictive. Okay, so we're almost there. As you can see, it's still quite a wet dough from all that melted butter in there. So now, what I'm going to do is just divide it in half. We are going to be rolling this into a log shape. But first, I'm just going to eyeball this. If you have a scale, you could weigh it and divide it equally. So that looks about right. So now what we're going to do is just leave this sitting at room temperature, uncovered, and that's going to dry this out and firm it up at least an hour so that we can easily roll it into a log shape. So it has now been about an hour, and as you can see, the batter has firmed up quite a bit. I would say it's kind of like Play-Doh. So now have 2 pieces of parchment or wax paper ready. And then I'm just going to gather this up. Put it on my counter. And we're just going to form each half into a 5-inch log, which is about 12.5 centimeters. So as you can see, it's still soft. We are going to chill this, so don't worry about it. Just try to get it into kind of a round log shape, just kind of mold it like you would Play-Doh into, and you might want to have a ruler handy. And kind of flatten the ends here. So, all right. Now, as you can see, this is kind of more, because it's soft, it's hard to get it into a perfectly round shape, but don't worry about it for now. So just get it into a 5-inch log, put it at one end of your parchment or wax paper, and then just roll it up. Like so. And I've already got the other one done. Now just put them on a baking sheet and then put them in the fridge. Now after about, I would say 45 minutes to an hour, if you want them into like a real nice round, like you would like a chocolate wafer, take them out after about, 45 minutes, re-roll them, try to get them into, because the dough will have firmed up, try to get into a round shape, and then put it back in the fridge, and then check it after maybe another half hour, and because sometimes like this will settle when it's in the fridge. So you might have to do this a few times, take it out, re-roll it. It takes a few times to get a really nice round shape, so depends how perfectly you want that. So let's put them in the fridge to chill. So now, once the logs are completely chilled, we can make the cookies. Now, the great thing about this dough is you don't have to bake them all off at once. The chilled dough will keep well wrapped in the refrigerator for at least a week, or you could even put it in the freezer for about a month. And you can just kind of slice and bake on demand. So first, preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 165 degrees Celsius. And then on a baking sheet, you can either line it with a piece of parchment like I've done here, or just lightly butter it or spray it. And then you will need a sharp knife. And like I said, make sure your log is really chilled. And with the sharp knife, we're going to cut into just fairly thin slices, about 1/4 of an inch, which is about 6 millimeters. So just straight down. And like I said, I'm just going to bake one sheet off, which will, give me about 6 sandwich cookies. Or you could bake all of them if you want. So there, and then I'm just going to rewrap and pop the rest of that log back into the refrigerator. So we're going to bake these somewhere between, depending on your oven, 17 and say 22 minutes. As you know, with chocolate, it's really hard to know when they're done. What you want is, you want them to be firm, and what I like, the longer you bake them, the more crisp they will become, obviously. So the way I like them is, I like them firm, and when I press them lightly on the center, they kind of give, but just a little bit. So anywhere, depending on your oven, 17 to 22 minutes. Okay, our chocolate cookies are now done. As you can see, they're nice and firm, and if I press the center, they just give just a little bit. So now, I'm going to let these cool, and while they cool, I'm going to start the cream filling. Now this is really just the confectioner frosting recipe on the site, only I'm not going to beat it as much because I want this filling to be quite thick. So if you have an electric stand mixer like I have, use a paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or I often just make it by hand with a wooden spoon. So you'll need a half a cup, it's 113 grams of butter. I like to use the unsalted, but you could use the salted, and have that quite soft. And then I'm just going to beat it just till it becomes creamy and smooth. And then I'm going to add 2 cups, that's 230 grams of confectioner sugar. You may know that as either powdered or icing. And I did sift this to remove all the lumps, because powdered sugar has a tendency to lumps. And then I'm just going to scrape down the sides. Kind of mix it a little by hand because, as you know, once you start the mixer, that tends to, sugar kind of flies all over the place. And then I'm also going to add, for a little flavoring, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Okay. Now I'm going to start this on low speed, and then I just want to beat it until it comes together. So now I'm going to add a little either milk, or you could use a light cream. Now I'm going to just start, because like I said, I want this to just be quite thick. So I'm going to add maybe a half a tablespoon to start. We can always add more. Okay, let's check the texture here. It's pretty thick. I think I'm going to use just a touch more milk. And if you want, you could color this. I'm just going to leave it in a yellowy white. But if it's like Valentine's Day, you could put some pink, or for Halloween, orange. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to clean up here and transfer this to a bowl so you can see. See, this is what you're looking for. It's quite soft, but still thick. If you kind of added a little too much milk and you thought, oh, it's a little runny, then just add a little more sugar. It's kind of foolproof, this. Okay. Now, the good part about this filling is that you can store it for a few days at room temperature, or you could put it in an airtight container and put it in the fridge for at least a week. But now, if you do have it in the fridge, just bring it to room temperature before you use it to fill the cookies. So then, just on the bottom side, now this is entirely how much you want. About, I would say maybe a tablespoon. Again, you can, like lots, you can do more. And then and gently press. Now, a lot of times what I do is I fill them shortly before serving, because if you store them like this for very long, like a couple days, you will find that the filling does soften the cookies. So that's what I would do. So there you go. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.